all different shapes and sizes, from tow behinds, fifth wheels, even some tiny little things that you can pull behind really little SUVs. I'm going to be installing a light kit onto my Class A 40-foot long diesel pusher RV. First step is going to get this all unpacked, laid out so you can see everything you have. Now this kit comes with 4 3-foot strips and 5 4-foot strips, wire splitters, power leads, 2 different power controllers, mounting bracket, and instructions for doing this install. Some tools you might need for the install: cordless grills, definitely going to come in handy, drill bits if you need to tap any holes for putting your screws in, and a wire brush can really come in handy if you need to clean some stuff off up under the RV. Phillips flathead screwdrivers, even extra wire ties, and a tape measure can really come in handy for layout on this. Now the mounts that I used were the plastic ones that you put the zip ties through and then they screw on. OPT7 also sends these small metal clips. Now these will allow the strips to mount a little bit more flush in case you got to mount up in some different tracks or different tight areas. Just make sure that the screws you're using are long enough to get a good bite, but also will countersink into those metal brackets so they can lock on. Also having some wire tie downs. I have a full set. These smaller ones really came in handy on this install so we can keep all the wires in place. Also, if any of your wire connections are going to be exposed, you need to make sure that you've got the right size shrink wrap, so anywhere you're putting these plugs together where they might be exposed to the elements, get some shrink wrap on there so they stay watertight. Now something I highly advise doing an install this large is go ahead and hook up to a battery power source. Hook both of your power leads that come from OPT7 that has the fusible links, and get everything kind of laid out so you can check and make sure it all works, and really wrapping your mind around how everything connects together. Those 2 separate power boxes are going to come in handy for an RV. One is going to go on the driver's side of the RV trailer. The other side is going to go on your campsite. Really important for doing this, because if you're at an RV park, campground, and you don't want your lights on that driver's side to be right in the middle of somebody else's campsite, being able to control those separately so you can just turn one side of the RV on, not both sides, will really come in handy. So you can see here, you can select campsite or driver's side, turn everything off and on. You can select your colors, select all your different options, and it's good to become familiar with how you're going to wire all this up. So seeing how many different splitters you need, which direction the light strips are going to need to go when you're mounting, everything's synchronized. So you're using those 2 separate controllers, but they're all synchronized by the same control on your phone. The next step is going to be walking around the RV and noticing things like a side step up here on the front and different things that might be in the way when you go to mount these light strips. Look on both sides of the RV, start laying out your light strips in a general area of how you want them. Keep in mind you have 2 of those 3-foot strips that have a 16-foot long cord on them. This can be really handy to get past that rear axle and any drivetrain in the back of the rig. Look for things like propane fills, water heaters, generators, exhaust, anything like that sticking out up underneath before you start installing, so you can get them to match on both sides, so you have a plan and an idea of how you're going to do it. I had a couple little things that made me maneuver things around a little bit, but once I had my plan of where I wanted to put anything, then we're ready for the next phase, is to start looking for power. The rear of the RV, depending on if you're towing something behind you, your larger size RVs have that big flap to keep rocks from hitting a tow behind. You also got hitches, exhaust, a lot of things in the back of that RV that's really going to get in the way. Up under the front of the RV, you've got steering components. My RV has a generator up here. Some are going to have an engine right up front. Find a place that you can mount that front light strip and run that wire so it's not going to be on top of any exhaust, anything that's going to get bound up when you're steering, turning, anything like that. Then we need to find our power source. Now I've got a fuse panel right up here on the side of the coach, and then I can run that power right up behind that and right through my basement storage compartments. So that'll allow me to keep my control boxes out of the elements, and I can wire everything up on the inside of those basement storage boxes. Just make sure if your control boxes are exposed to the elements that then you shrink wrap them as well. So let's get started. We're going to start with this first light strip on the back. This is going to be one of the more difficult ones because you've got to run that wire all up through those rear components. This particular compartment for me, it's not a water tank. You check on the top side, check on the bottom side, make sure you're not putting any screws in anything that you shouldn't. And then you got to have a plan for running your wires. Once you get your brackets up, then get your zip ties in there, go ahead and secure that light strip, and then start planning that wire routing. I like to plug them in as I go to test them, and then you can see we secured that wire right up underneath because I don't want anything getting bound up. On the opposite side of the rig, we've got the septic dump system, and it's also got a tank kind of right down there that would really hold that light strip too low. So I wanted to stage the lights in a little bit deeper, but working with what we have with my rig, I just mounted that strip a little bit closer. You can drill into these cross beams and then put your screws right up in there, and that's going to give you a really, really solid mount for these light strips up underneath. Then put in your zip ties, secure your wires. There are mounting tabs at the end of the light strips, so I was able to screw right up here into the basement subfloor and hold that. The opposite side, we've got another big storage compartment. I can screw right up into the bottom of that. I still put screws at the ends of the light strips, as well as the mounting brackets with the zip ties on this one. When you get up on the sides, on Class A rigs, very common, you've got those cross beams, or you might be able to fit that strip right up to the subfloor underneath that basement storage. On this side, we had a propane tank that we had to worry about where it was filled, so we made sure that we cleared that and then got the light strips all up underneath. And man, this turned out so good. Really, really just love the way this looks. So no matter what type of RV you have, if you've got a small mini motorhome, Class C, Class B, Class A, fifth wheel trailer, start looking around your coach. Identify things like propane tanks, generators, side steps, and you can start coming up with a plan. OPT7 has kits for all different size RVs, and when you're doing your layout, you can figure out how you want to space those light strips so you can get everything mounted. You don't want to go up into water tanks, anything like that. But up front here, you see you've got storage compartments. We can put screws up in there, or you can go right on those little strips on the outside edges. The front of trailers don't need a light strip because they're hooked right up behind a vehicle, and you don't need a light strip right by your wheels. And when you have slide outs, you got to take that into consideration, along with any side steps, any compartments that you've got going. But as you look around on any RV, the spacing on those light strips will help you design your layout for how you want to set up your rig. Some of them, they'll have bottoms on them, like this one big rig. You can literally mount strips anywhere you want under this one, and you just got to plan out your wiring and your routing. So get out there, take a look at your rig, and see what you can do with OPT7 lights and make it look like mine turned out, because this is just going to be the coolest thing rolling down the road.